Hi everyone, good evening. So I'm Shifan Kader, Financial Controller of Tikri Corporation. So today I would like to welcome all participants on behalf of SLASCOM Regional Development Forum. SLASCOM is conducting this event by collaborating with other main partners, namely EDB, ICTA, FITIS, and with the support of all other knowledge partners. So today we are on day 3. So far, we have completed 2 successful and houseful events and looking forward for more useful sessions till end of this week. So please stay tuned. Today, our first topic is how to build a winning product through design thinking. This will be conducted by Nipuna Silva. Nipuna is currently holding a position of Senior Tech Lead at Tikri. Nipuna, it's over to you.
Thanks, Shifan, for the introduction. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another session on IT BPM Week. My name is Nipuna, and today I'll be talking about an interesting topic, that is design thinking. So, a bit about me. Currently working as at Tikri as a tech lead, and this is my LinkedIn profile, active on that, and also I'm occasionally writing Medium as well as I used to write on Blogspot, not at the moment. So, but I still have some very good articles you can just go through and visit in that. So a bit about the company I work for. Tikri is a global technology company that provides innovation and digitization to technology and growth keen customers. And we act as our clients' technology partner and try to be the most valued partner for them. And we do have customers from all around the world, and we do practice agile methodologies to make sure that we deliver the best to our customers. So let's get back to the topic. So today's topic is building winning products through design thinking. So the reason I selected this topic today is the design thinking and the user experience is a very relevant topic these days, especially in software development, but not only that. But nowadays, software development has become a very much big industry, and a lot of similar products are coming into the market which has the same capabilities. To stand out of these same capabilities, you should have that unique proposition in your system. If you don't have something unique in your system, it's sometimes your customers might go to a different system. But if you have that unique thing in your system, customers will attract to your system and they will stay in your system. Especially in a situation like this, it's important to keep the customers not only by developing the software, but also by being technology providers, being solution providers to the customers. And that is where the design thinking comes into play. So in modern day software development, as I said, it's not only the development that you have to do, it's always the user experience and suggestions that you have to give by becoming the solution providers. The reason why we need to think of why we need to provide this is, imagine this scenario. So you are asked to do a system, you are asked to develop a system, and some time back and now also that is how the situation is. Usually the requirements we get from business analysts, and from those people only we sometimes get these how to develop the system, etc. And based on the descriptions we develop the systems. But when it comes to the production, when it comes to the customer rejects it. The reason why, look at this scenario. Maybe you were not given the specification right, so you develop a system which is used by a construction worker at a remote place like this. So imagine if the button is very small and the user cannot use it because he's always moving, and it's only one hand maybe he has to have to operate, and it's very problematic for the user, and user might reject it and might go to a different system or a solution. This is where exactly the design thinking comes into play. The, the main thing about design thinking is that you have to go to the You have to wear the shoes of the customer. You have to get into the boots of the customer and understand how the user will use it, how the end user will use it. And that is the most important aspect about design thinking. And as once late Steve Jobs said, it's not only the it's not only how the design feels like, it's also about how the design actually works. So sometime back, I think still undergraduates, I think most of the connected people today are undergraduates. So I believe still this waterfall development methodology is taught at the universities. So this is the usual phases in the software development. So you have the requirement phase, design phase, implementation, you name it, those phases are there. The problem with these phases is, let's say, as I said initially, if you were given this target of doing a system, developing a system, and you go through the requirement phase already and you do the implementation after the design. But when it comes to a delivery, after maybe 6 months, the customer says, this is not I want. I want something else. So the cost of change goes high. But imagine if you had this that thinking or the feedback earlier, if you know that this customer, how the customers uses this earlier, the higher chance that you do this earlier, and cost is high, cost is low in the initial stages. And that is where these lightweight methodologies came into play, namely Agile, Scrum, Kanban, etc. So as you may have already heard or may have used, so initially in a software development phase, earlier you do these analysis, earlier you demo to the customer, earlier you get the feedback, earlier you understand the user, it's easy to get the things get done, changes get done, and uh, you will be able to do these developments much faster and much earlier phase. And of course, the cost is also a bit high, a bit low in the initial phases. And that is where customers wanted this agile methodology, so they also can see what we are developing initially, and not like traditional ways that we had some time back. And that is why people rejected these waterfall mechanisms and came into this agile mechanism. So you can always do the continuous delivery and you can always get the feedback and everyone is happy. Design thinking comes exactly here. So design thinking is a user-centered approach to problem solving. And especially in agile context, this design thinking adds more value, and success rate has been proven that success rate is more higher when it comes to these shorter cycles of deliveries. And shorter cycles of deliveries means the more you understand the user. And the main thing about design thinking is the empathy. Focuses on empathy by asking right questions and explore newer solutions that may not have been initially obvious. And that is why this design thinking has been proven as a very good opportunity for both the parties, customers as well as the solution providers. So design thinking is not a rocket science, something like that. It's a very simple thing. Initially, if you categorize it this way, you have the inspiration. So maybe if you are in a startup, you got the idea of doing something, some system, and you have the inspiration, the problem or opportunity that motivates, and you search for the solutions. And when it comes to the solutions, you have the idea, you comes to the ideation phase. The ideation phase is the most important, where you go through this process of generating, developing and testing ideas. Maybe you want to develop a system, but after you go to the ideation phase, and other phases I will show in the later parts of this presentation, this is where you validate what the thought you had, if the people will use it or not. And in the ideation phase, you actually analyze and see if this is the right direction. Maybe you will see the initial idea you had, maybe you will understand that it is totally wrong. And we actually had that situations before in the project, some of the projects that I worked on. So we pivoted the startup concept. We actually moved from the initial concept to a different one because after a few cycles of design thinking, we got to know that customers actually don't want this. Customers want different thing, and that is how we applied design thinking to make sure that we are on the right track. And then finally, the implementation, where we learn from our mistakes and we are on the right track when it comes to the implementation. So this is a set of sticky notes. Some people might think when you search for design thinking, it will always show people sticky notes in the walls, these post-it notes, everything. But design thinking is not like that. Design thinking is not something that you do for 1 week, you exercise for 1 month or something, and you finish it off. Design thinking is not that. Design thinking is a constant process where you apply it and you apply it again and again until you achieve greater results. It's a mindset. It's not some set of rules that you need to like always keep on mind, but it is a set of a set of guidelines. I would say a set of principles that you should keep in your mind always. And as always, it is not just users that always you have to keep in mind. It is also important to understand the context as well as the content. A good example of context is where the people are using this system. As I showed in the earlier slide, if the user is using it in a place where taking a laptop and doing the operation is hard, it's a failure. So you need to understand those context and content as well in order to develop a good product. So it's up to you to understand how the users are relevant, how the context is relevant, and how the content is also relevant in the product that you are developing. Few highlights about design thinking before we dig into the inside of what the process and everything is. It's people-centered always. Always understand, always think from the customer's perspective, not the developer's perspective. So understand how the people are using it, do the research, and it's highly creative. You might have some idea, but your team member, your junior team member might have some better idea than you. So it is always a highly creative process where you get to know people and check, understand whether you are going on the right direction. Hands-on, it's a very practical thing, not just doing the coding, but understand the user, doing the research about the user, applying the user experience concept, UX concepts, and everything in that. And also iterative process. Not only at the beginning of the project, maybe when you're adding a new feature, or maybe also already validating something that you already added. So it's not only at the initial part of the project that you have to apply this, but maybe at a later part of as well. So the main idea is initially you are uncertain about what we are developing, especially in startups. This is very important because initially you don't know if you are on the right track. Maybe you know, but maybe when it comes to the market, maybe you get fails. So that is why initial research is important, and little by little, what we're trying to do is you going to clarify things and make sure that you're on the right track. So initially you might have one idea, but after doing these processes, you will have lots of ideas. But in end of the day, what we are trying to do is getting the correct product out in the market. So now let's get into the design thinking steps. So this is where I want to introduce 5 steps, 5 guidelines that is essential, that is introduced for the design thinking. This is initially introduced by Stanford, and this has been deviated by different people into different concepts. So which two of them we will be looking at today. So we have the empathize phase, define, ideate, the prototype, and finally the testing. So we have 5 phases. Each of these is very important, and sometimes you will have to go between two of them to understand before going into the next step. So before going into the prototype, maybe you will have to go from define to ideate and back to define and ideate few times until you come up with the better solution, the best solution. So that is something you need to understand. This is a very iterative process. So not like you go from 1 to 5 and that's it. Not like that. You have to, sometimes you have to go few times back and forth to understand if you're on the right track. So that is something you have to keep in mind. So we'll go to the first step, that is the empathize. So empathizing is basically you understanding the user. Sometimes you might think the user behaves in some way, but when you understand the user, you might think that user actually uses this in a very different way. So one of the systems that I work for currently is a valuation system. So we do, as in Sri Lankan context, we don't have those valuers who has this sophisticated software and go to these places or the houses and everything and do the valuations. So in some of the countries, they have this automated system, the web applications and mobile applications, where they go with this application and uses that application to do the valuations, even the vehicle valuations as well as the property valuations. So since we don't familiar with these concepts, sometimes some of the user types, we need to observe them. We need to sometimes engage with them. And sometimes if both of those are not possible, sometimes we have to get a video and then watch and learn. So this is how you understand the user. One way or the other, the main thing is to understand how the user will actually use this application, or how the current problems the user has. So always you have to go to the other side, because the person, I will say sometimes this is only 6, but other person might say this is 9. So because he will see it from the other way. So you have to always go to the other side and understand from the user's perspective. Here you might have to sometimes understand how the other similar applications works. Let's say you are coming into a market that is already established, and while finding that unique thing in your system, you will also have to understand, you will also have to watch and learn how the similar applications behave before going into the problem, going into the solution, like that. So in empathizing, it is always important to engage with the extreme users as well. Some users, when it comes to let's say Facebook, some users are power users. Some users know inside out of Facebook, how to block people, how to create groups, how to all the settings in the Facebook. People knows. Some people knows. Those are rangers, the power users. And some people are called rejectors. They only know a very limited set of features, and they are okay with using it. And most of them are majority. They know bits of pieces every here and there, and they are also able to use the system. So that is why you need to understand not only from the majority, but we need to understand how these rejectors as well as these power users will use the system. Because you need to, if you are developing a system which has a larger audience, you need to understand how every user group uses it. Maybe when it comes to this Facebook example, some are very young people. So you need to understand how these young people use it. And some are older people. So you need to understand there as well how these older people will use the system. So it works both ways. You need to understand every user type to see whether if it's a right fit, if the product, the path you are going is correct or wrong. And some are superheroes, some are villains. So you need to understand from both the angles what is correct, what is the right thing to do. And good example is, some of you may have know this, some of you may have used this. I have used this in one of my previous companies. Just wanted to try it out. The company bought it so that they can have a look to see what it is. Costed a lot, technically very impressive, but failed to perform in consumer market. I think it was cost more than, I think around 2013-14. It cost around I think $1,500 or something USD. But the normal consumer users did not find any use of it, because it's just a glass. And at that time, I think even now, if I was given this glass, I don't have a day-to-day use of it. And sometimes I would be thinking twice before wearing something like this when going out, because if this get broken, $1,000 or something goes on a waste. So initially, though it's a very technically impressive thing, it was not performing well. It was not generating the revenue that was expected to generate. And I think just wonder if you have heard what Google Glass is doing now, how the Google Glass is doing now. So what they have doing is, they have gone into a different market. They have gone into an enterprise edition, not the consumer edition. If you go to the Google Glass website now, these are the pictures, these are the highlights they give. So they are actually targeting a different user group. So the point here is, sometimes you may have a very good technical solution, but if you have not done the user research properly, maybe you are in the right direction, you are not in the correct direction. So you need to understand how the user will behave, how the user will react to these applications when developing, and that is very important. And one other thing I just wanted to highlight while talking about this empathy is this Kahneman model. The Kahneman model says, usually there are, if you take a mobile phone, people expect basic things like taking a call to be work. So that is the basic function, basic expectation of a mobile phone. And then if you have, let's say, a scientific calculator, people won't expect it, but if you have that, then it's a performant. But if you have a delightful feature, if you have a very key competitive advantage over the others, that is because this feature, delightful feature, other mobile providers might not have. Let's say you have a camera which has a good quality, which can take good quality DSLR quality pictures, then people will go for that, because that's the delightful feature you have in your system. But then again, you need to understand, this delightful feature over the time goes down. So maybe initially calling SMS and contact list is a very delightful feature, a new feature, but it becomes a basic in the next version. And again, camera, music, radio, it's a new feature, but goes to the basic features in some time. And same applies for the other versions as well. You have a touch screen, but touch screen is now a very basic thing that is out there. But many years back, maybe 1 decade back, touch screen was a very impressive, technically very impressive thing. So the design, the delightful feature, Kahneman model says delightful feature will go down as the time passes. So the reason why I wanted to highlight this Kahneman model is, this is where you can apply design thinking, so that you can find that delightful thing in your next new product, your next big thing, and apply that. But remember, also this Kahneman model also applies. So always, even in your current products, always try to add new features by applying these design thinking concepts, so that you can go ahead with your competitors. And the next step comes is the define. So defining is the next second stage of the design thinking process, where you establish a clear idea of exactly what the problem you are trying to solve. So after the empathizing of the user, after understanding the user, you come to the you come to the defining of the problem. Sometimes it's not the original problem that you want to solve. Maybe to already established system, you have already a system, but you want to add a new feature. The customer requests you to add a new feature. How do you do it? So there are a few ways. You can think whether this, you can do a research on to see if this new feature is relevant or not, because a customer might say this feature is good, maybe a rich text editor in your application, but maybe after understanding the users and everything, you might have a different opinion that user might not you need it. User might need a different one, a better option. So that is why you need to focus on these problems in a very actionable way, and by maybe reframing as well. So Albert Einstein said once said, if you have a problem, you don't go and try to fix it quickly. You actually analyze the problem, and then only you go and fix the problem, because fixing might not only need 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but understanding will need much more time. So this is where you go back and forth and understand what is the exact problem that you are going to solve. And you can apply techniques like 5 whys, and this is where you ask why 5 times. Let's say you want this, and you will ask why you need this, and then the customer or the other party will say something, and this will go and again. So this is why where you apply the 5 whys techniques, so that you can understand the root cause. You can check whether you are on the right track by understanding if you're on the uh, asking this 5 whys technique, applying this 5 whys technique. And this it is important to have this quantity of ideas before quality, because you will have more. The more ideas you have in this phase, the more things that you can evaluate. And then comes the ideation phase. The In the ideation, the focus is on the idea generation, and this is where you translate your problems into solutions. So uh, as I said, I will be going into two frameworks that how these things implemented. So just wanted to give you some highlights about how the theory works, not a theory, but how the principles works. Just wanted to highlight that. And ideation phase is where you get many people involved, and with lots of ideas, you translate these problems into solutions. And this is a very important step, because this is the step where we understand what the exact problem is. Maybe you have, let's say, 10 problems, and you can use things like dot plotting to see what problem you are going to solve. Let's say you have 10 problems, and after dot plotting, you have three solutions, three problems that you think are the most important to be fixed. And the idea is, the main thing is, before going into development phase, you can apply these steps to make sure that you are on the right track. And integrative thinking is ability to look at all different angles of a problem. So not only in a single angle, as I said earlier, sometimes you have to look into different angles. And the reason why we involve different people from different contexts is to understand the problem in different ways, and that's very important. And then comes these are some of the techniques. So you can do the brainstorming, you can do the reverse brainstorming, and also SWOT, as well as C-sketch. And after the ideation phase, you can go to the prototyping. So now you know what to prototype. You have the problem from this general problem. Now you have come to a specific problem that you want to address. But before doing the implementation, you can always go and do a prototype. So prototyping is always experimenting with trial and error. So you can go with smaller prototypes with lower fidelity and go for a higher one. And You can always find a problem before the going to the production. Even going before to the implementation, you can always build a prototype and understand if you are on the right track, if you are doing this correctly. And fidelity. Fidelity is one of the ways that you can do the prototyping. So prototyping, you if you the left most left one is the low fidelity one, where if the customer wants to see, or if you want to do this prototyping in a very rapid way, you can just sketch it. You can use things like paper prototyping. So I hope you will write some things that is needed so that you can actually go and search later, because paper prototyping is also very important. It's a very people think we are not people in the industry, paper prototyping is not used, but paper prototyping, not only in the software industry but also in other industries, these prototyping techniques can be used. So fidelity, you come from lower fidelity version to a higher fidelity version where you have more options and displayed in a very much systematic way that is relevant to your needs. And look and feel is, as you can see in the first version, the look and feel is very much away from software product. But as this evolves, as you do these steps further and further, you can evolve this into a prototype which is more similar to the look and feel of a real system. So that is how you can evolve. So few other things I wanted to highlight is Higgs law. So as you can see, if you have three options, it is very easy to remember, and easy to remember, as well as you don't have to think much. Even if you look at this, the screen below, the menu below, you have this plus button and the delete button, and it won't take much time for you to decide whether you want to delete it or add one. But with the options gets larger, when you have lots of options, more options, though you have maybe you have selected in the second one, you can see there's grape, peach, blueberry. Maybe you have selected grapes, but you don't actually go and select it. You won't go to the next step because you tend to think about the other options as well. So the time in proportion, from what it says is, the Higgs law, what it says is, when you point at an item from a list, you take time in proportion to the number of options. So more the options, the more time you take to decide on one. And these are the concepts that you can apply not only in the prototyping but in your real world systems as well. And these are the solutions that as solution providers we should tell our customers, not only in the design thinking but in the actual implementations as well. And that is why having this idea of how the user will behave it, how easy it is for the user to use these things is important. And this is one other screen that I wanted to highlight. I can't remember exactly from where I did get this. So this is one other option, one other scenario. You have lots of options, so you tend to take time selecting one. Maybe you wanted to select something. Maybe you wanted to come and select, go for to select coffees, but then again you won't go inside the option coffee, but you will be thinking about other options as well. So these are the things that you need to consider when applying design thinking, as well as applying creating real world products. One other example, and then comes the Miller's law. So this is another law I wanted to highlight. I'm not going through all the laws in the UX world. Just want to highlight 2-3 things that will be beneficial for you to understand. So it says average person can only keep 7 items in their working memory. I don't know if this is true or not, but just think about yourselves and think about how much things that you will remember. So there's a good example, a bad design as well as a good design, a better design. So if you have a sign up form like this, you will lost focus on after going few steps. But if you have a sign up form like this, in the better way, you have groups, and grouping will make sure that you are going on the relevant places only. So after you finish these three text boxes or three these form controls, you don't have to worry much about when it comes to the group three. You don't have to worry much about the things that was in the first group because it is not relevant. But if you look at the bad design, you tend to think about the other options as well, because it looks like you just finished completing those options. So not only that, but there are a lot of other options as well. You can go to the you can just search for laws of UX, and you will see, I think about I think in the laws of UX there are about 9 options that is shown, but there are lots of other options that is there. You can just have a look. And then comes the testing phase. Testing phase, obvious one, getting the feedback from the prototypes. So sometimes you will have to, if the testing phase, if the end user says, okay, this is not what I want, you will have to go back to the prototyping phase and check whether you have selected the right prototype. And sometimes all the prototypes may be wrong, and that is where you go for the first step or the second, third steps and redefine the problem and get another solution, because the user might be expecting a different one. Check with different users. Negative feedback is very important. This is where you understand if the user will actually uses it or not. And as I mentioned, these are not rules, but these are actually principles. And apply where necessary. Don't go and apply it in every place. So understand if this is relevant, but only apply where necessary. Okay. So I will be going into the one of the implementations, the one of the frameworks that is implemented by design thinking, that is the double diamond. So I think now it's 5:36. I'm halfway done, so I will just try to go quickly. So basically what you need to do is, so I am actually talking about different concepts, but just get the highlights of that. So design thinking, just understand what are the main steps, because why I'm telling this is because from those steps I will be asking a question as well. So so you can just get a prize if you answer it correctly. So I will be asking it at the end of the session. So keep in mind also. And don't worry, I will be showing that those some of the answer, some of the question, some things related to the question at the end of the session as well, at the latter part. So just keep your mind in the slides. And double diamond method, almost similar to the steps in the design thinking. You have the discover phase, the define phase, develop and deliver. And the important thing to understand in double diamond is you do the you diverge and then you converge. In diverging, you have the general problem and you go and understand what are the some other problems that is relevant, and you go and redefine the problem by diverging, and then you converge them back by maybe using dot plotting, and converge into a specific problem. And again you ideate. In the ideate, what you do is you create a prototype, and you converge into a specific problem, and you again diverge into maybe if you say let's say you have 5 people in the group, you diverge into, each person diverges into two prototypes, and you have 10 prototypes or 10 prototype ideas where you can go in, you can draw. And then in the other phase, what you do is you do the dot plotting system. The dot plotting is very helpful to understand, because in dot plotting what you do is you have 3 options, and out of 10 options you go and select the option that you think that is best, and you have one thing or two, three things you can prototype. And after the prototyping, you can do the testing, and you will have a specific solution. So again, Very similar to design thinking, because this is also something like design thinking, but understand this is also another frame, another way you can implement this double diamond. And if you're taking a screenshot, I think this is a very good screenshot, because it will have these concepts. What are the techniques that you can use in the even developing these systems. So you can have a you can see in develop you have the brainstorming, designing, uh, experimental, and etc. sketching also. So these concepts are like being used in worldwide, so you can have a understanding about that. And these are some of the screenshots that I took from photos from the workshop that we did in the University of Colombo some time back. I think this is last year. So you can see the marshmallow challenge. So discover and prototyping. Let me. So you can see marshmallow challenge is something that is interesting, because with the marshmallow challenge, what you do is marshmallow challenge is something that you will use to it's like a brain tracer. So initially in these workshops, what we do is we give a challenge to the our participants and ask them to uh, create the tallest structure. We give them 18, we actually give them 18 minutes, and we ask them to, we will give them spaghetti sticks, a blue tack, as well as a marshmallow. So the challenge is within these 18 minutes, you have to build the highest tower, highest marshmallow tower, and place this marshmallow on top. So what happens is people try to be the first, try to build the highest, but again, at the end, people fails. So this is a good example of the heights. The y-axis shows the height of how high the people has built build these towers in average, and you can see architects and engineers, of course, they know the concepts and they can build it higher. But look at the kindergarten students, as well as CEOs and lawyers, and also business school students. So, and if you can see, the kindergarten students has gone more than the average. That is because lawyers, the CEOs, and business school students, what they want to be is the first, and they try to build build it fast as possible, but they will place the marshmallow only at the latter part, and then everything gets it doesn't the tower cannot hold the weight of the marshmallow, and it collapses. So idea is prototyping. You do the prototyping, you build a tower, maybe one step, one level, and you keep the marshmallow and check whether if it falls down. And if it succeeds, you go to the next step, and then you go to the next step. So that is how you will build a marshmallow tower. Marshmallow, how you will participate in the marshmallow challenge, and that is how you will build a tower. You will build a product and make sure it doesn't fall down. So marshmallow challenge is a very good example that we used to give this idea of prototyping at the beginning of these workshops. And then we have this Google design sprint, one of the other ways that we use. So it's very similar to the diamond, the double diamond, as well as design thinking concept. And you have 5 days. You on the Monday you do the mapping, Tuesday you do the sketching, Wednesday you decide on which to do the prototype on, and Thursday you prototype, and Friday you do the testing. You can use tools like there are a lot of tools in the market that you can do the rapid prototyping. So you can use any of those tools. So idea again is to do this testing and see whether the real world users will use it. If it fails, if users finds problems, then you can always go to the back to the prototyping, or you can go back to the deciding phase and redo these things. And idea is in a very minimal cost to make sure or check whether you can go to the market. And this is not only in the software industry, but you can do this in the sales, marketing, engineering, etc. One of the design thinking design the Google design sprints that we did in TICRI some time back. So this is very useful in identifying whether your application needs a revisit or maybe redesign, or maybe some feature needs a redesign. This is where you apply these concepts and make understand whether these applications needs a redesign or maybe a rethought. Quickly, we'll go through one of the applications that we developed. So initially this was the screen, but applying the thinking concepts, thinking concepts, we evolved into a different UI. And you can see initially we did not have any feedback button, but we evolved into that. And we understood another set of problems, like we needed these categories. So we added these categories, the electrician PowerPoint, and also the job numbers, and call, chat features, everything. So that is how we have evolved. And always you can use these personas also. I won't go deep into this. Do the data analysis. There you can understand users more. And more importantly, this diagram. Initially, you don't have a business model. So I will have the laser pointer. So initially, you don't have any business model, and you have a problem, but you don't have any business model. And you apply design thinking here. Where design thinking, even in startups, or even in if you are redesigning or integrating a new maybe a new module into your existing system, you can apply this, maybe this business model, maybe or not, maybe you have a business model, but I'm assuming you don't have any business model. You apply this, you go from problem to solution, and you go from no business model to an unvalidated business model. And this is where you apply lean startup, which is a concept that is mainly used in startups. And also you apply the design sprint. And where these two, you come to the initial stage of the market, from solution to market, as well as unvalidated business model to the validated business model. And then Agile Scrum, the lightweight methodology I talked to you about. So using this, you go from design sprint to, you go from design thinking to design sprint to Scrum methodology. And not only in this in the first phase you can apply this design thinking, you can actually apply it in the later stages as well. Imagine you do a design thinking scenario or a workshop for 1 week thing, and you do the usual your developments, but then again you find that something is wrong, and then you apply design thinking again and redefine, revalidate your problem, and then you do the design thinking again, you do your usual development again. So that is how you evolve from design thinking to design sprint to your agile mechanisms. So this is a very good diagram that you need to understand. Grab the idea. It's, as I said, it's not only at the beginning you have to apply this design thinking, but maybe at the later stages as well, even in the middle as well. And more code doesn't mean more value. So regardless how much code you write, maybe if you don't have any business value in that, it doesn't make any sense. So you always go to find the best solution. Try to understand if one line of code that you read, if it adds any value to your actual customers. And desirable, feasible, and viable solutions, that's what we are looking for at any end. So ideas are cheap, building things is expensive. So try to apply these concepts earlier to make sure that to reduce this expensive feature. So innovation that is feasible and viable, that is what we expect. Good Airbnb study. So Airbnb wasn't generating at the beginning. Airbnb wasn't generating any revenue, and there were lots of competitors, similar products, and the listing products was the one of the problems they identified is the listing photos were not in good quality, and what they did is they hired a cameraman, a camera team, went into some of the listings, took some good quality pictures, and posted them back in the Airbnb site. And initially, they got a very good hits to their website, hits to their business, and that's how they actually came into the market by understanding, revalidating if the what is wrong by applying these design thinking concepts. Um, I will also in the LinkedIn. I will hopefully add this. There was a good case study about how Airbnb did this design thinking. I will add in my LinkedIn profile, so you can just have a look into that. And also, if you look at this Google is a company where design thinking is practiced very much. And if you look at this, if you just type in "visit Sri Lanka today," you can see everything that it shows has a relevance. So if you say visit Sri Lanka, it will show the map, it will show a good description of it, as well as popular destinations, because you are actually visiting. What you're trying to do is you visit Sri Lanka. And also people also ask the questions that frequently asked questions, they also show. And the reason I wanted to put here is try to add value to your products by understanding what is relevant and what is not. And you can see even if you scroll down, they try to collect feedback so they can get more information and get more insights into the application, and that is very important. And some of the all the screens, and yeah, feasible and viable. And design thinking is all about thinking innovatively, thinking out of the box, thinking from the customer's perspective, not just being the software developers, but being solution providers, especially if you are when you are working with in from Sri Lanka to clients that is abroad. Always try to be solution providers. And so my hope for you today is for you to start being innovative. And this is a constant process, not just one time thing. So have these things in your products, have these ideas in your products when develop your development, especially the 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 people who coming just into the industry and undergraduates also. Try to apply these things in your, maybe in your assignments even. Try to apply these wherever you can, so that you can actually have that mindset when it comes to the industry. A summary: so you have the 5 steps. You have the 2 ways you can implement this: the double diamond, as well as uh, the the design sprint, and how it relates with the industry. You apply design thinking whenever you want to have, especially in agile context. Okay, so I will upload these slides so you can have a look. These are some of the some of the references I took in these slides, and also it is very relevant for you to have an understanding of these things. All right, that comes to the end of this session, and I wanted to ask, as I said, I wanted to ask a question. I think it's 5:54. I have like 6 minutes to go ahead, so we'll go to the question first, and then the QA. Question is, what are the 5 steps in design thinking process? What are the 5 steps in design thinking process? You can go to the Slido and give the answers. And the event code for this event is ITB ITBPM week 5. ITBPM week 5. So go to this link and give the answer, and you will get a gift from Tikri. Okay, and make sure that you add the email address as well as name, so that we can actually get back to you with to the winner. Okay, so this comes to the Q&A session. I will check the few questions. So I think we have questions today. So one of the questions that is in regard to the prototyping, what are the some recommended softwares which are accessible? I think if you search for prototyping, there are lots of tools coming. I can't actually name this is good and this is bad, because there are lots of tools, and lots of tools, they offer free version as well. And there are most of the tools, in the free version, you don't get the opportunity to like have the all the options. And but there are lots of tools out there that you can use. And so one question, that is the best site for developing a portfolio to a trainee UI designer. Again, I think I'm not going to name the sites, but there are lots of sites again. You can use, just search for uh, the human UX profile, and you can have those. There are lots of sites again, and Dribbble is one of the sites that I recommend. There are, I think, Dribbble also, there's a paid version which has lots of features. So the thing with these sites is they always offer free version, but always offer again a paid version where you get the like the total functionalities, total the package. So you can always use these tools, but still, if you want to maintain a profile, I think you can even in the free version, that you can have a good idea. I know a lot of UX developers, even in Tikri, who maintains Dribbble profiles, so they can actually showcase their their feedbacks, their designs, their personal designs. And that is very important for to uh, maintain a good profile, a reputation. And one of the questions is, can we conduct design sprint online, especially during the current time? It depends, because I actually, when doing the research, I saw a few of the sites which also offers this design thinking in remote context. But there are practical issues, of course, because since we are not actually seeing each other face to face. But there are few, I can't actually remember the site. There was a site that you can do this design thinking, these dot plotting, and the post-it notes. They have this all the package built inside, but not sure how practical it is. But you can always, as I said, this is just a guideline, but you can have that thinking. Because sometimes even with the clients that currently we even in our company, we can't actually go and do these visit, visits to the customers. So you don't have to apply the whole process. Maybe sometimes you may only need to apply one or two processes, one or two steps from the complete process. But the the main idea is to get that design thinking between your client as well as the team. So that is the most important thing. To your question, there are tools, but the practicality is in a question. So one other question is, when we are prototyping, why quantity is far more important than quality? So in prototyping quantity is not is I think in prototyping, what I said earlier is, in the initial phases, in defining and empathizing phases, though in those phases only, the quantity is important. But when it comes to prototyping, you cannot create let's say 10 or 20 prototypes. You can only create maybe 3 4 prototypes, where you can actually give it to a customer and ask, okay, we have 3 screens, which screen you think is better. So quantity is not important, quantity rather than quantity, quality is important when it comes to prototyping phase. And that is why we do the dot plotting. So let's say the team comes up with 10 screens, 10 dummy screens. You do the dot plotting and select 3 of them, where you present to your customer or your end users and check whether this is the one that you can go ahead with. So quality is important when it comes to the prototyping, not the quantity. So do we have still time? Yes. I'm a 17-year-old, just beginning my software development career. So the one of the questions that is, can I apply this in small projects also? Yes, you can apply it wherever you want, but understand the context. If the custom, if you have these things, let's say if you have, um, let's say your problem statement and everything is defined, there's less chance that you can apply it. But even in the even in a smaller project, you can apply these concepts and try to understand, regardless if the project is small or larger, you can understand if you can go ahead with this idea or not. Okay, I think we can wrap up the session. Thank you very much, and I really hope that you will use these techniques in your future projects, undergraduate especially, and hope to see you all using these things. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tushan.
All right. Thank you so much, Nipuna, for the wonderful presentation on design thinking. So like Nipuna said, Nipuna will have a look on the answers provided in Slido, and we will get back to you individually with the winners. And also, thank you very much for joining in for the first session of the Day 3 Digital IT BPM Week. Looking forward to see you all back at 6:30 with the role of startups in post-COVID-19 era session. Thank you, everyone.